Hafa Day and welcome to the first Select Guam Virtual Symposium. My name is Melanie Mendiola and I'm the CEO of the Guam Economic Development Authority and your host for today's event. Whether you stopped by our booth at Select USA back in May, or if this is your first look at Guam, we hope that today opens your eyes to the potential of bringing your team to Guam and ultimately making an investment on our beautiful island paradise. Today, you will be hearing from subject matter experts who have been investing and or working with investors in our island and of course have the opportunity to ask your questions so that you may be fully informed prior to making this important business decision to invest in Guam. To start our convening today, we are so pleased to have Lourdes Aflagui Leon-Guerrero, Magahagan Guahan, our esteemed governor, to welcome you. Since taking office in January 2019, Governor Leon-Guerrero erased the government's general fund deficit, paid tax refunds the fastest in Guam's history, raised the standards of pay for healthcare professionals, police officers, and educators. She also worked with the Guam legislature to legalize cannabis and open the doors to new investors by signing into law tax incentives for the circular economy projects that remove waste from the waste stream and other industry initiatives. Within months of the unprecedented global pandemic, Governor Leon-Guerrero distributed over $100 million in direct aid to 2,500 local businesses and launched multiple innovative programs to aid Guam families in recovery, including a significant multi-million-dollar effort to grow the childcare industry to support working families. Under her leadership, Guam also achieved one of the highest vaccination rates among states and territories. She continues to champion healthcare initiatives, including the establishment of the island's first paramedic program, and she's currently on a mission to rebuild Guam's only decades-old public hospital. This dedication to healthcare comes from her early career in the industry. After earning a Bachelor of Science in Nursing from California State University and later a Master's of Public Health from UCLA, she worked as a staff nurse in hospitals in both California and Guam. Governor Leon-Guerrero has also held several management positions in healthcare at the Guam Memorial Hospital and FHP Inc. and served on the GMHA Board of Trustees. To this day, Governor Leon-Guerrero continues to be passionate about healthcare and has maintained her licensure as a registered nurse. She transitioned from healthcare to banking in 2005. In 2005, Governor Leon-Guerrero assumed the helm at the Bank of Guam as its new CEO and president. Under her leadership, the Bank of Guam doubled its assets to become a $2 billion enterprise. Honorable Lourdes Lou Aflagui Leon-Guerrero is the 9th governor of Guam and the first female governor of the territory. She's also a registered nurse, a businesswoman, a policymaker, a wife, a mother, and a grandmother. Governor, thank you for joining us today. Some of today's attendees you may have already met at Select USA. We also have investors joining us from 4 continents. They're as nearby as our friends in the Philippines and Japan, and as far away as the United Arab Emirates. And they're all here to learn about Guam. Thank you, Governor.
Okay, thank you very much, Mel, for that introduction. And I just want to welcome and say Hafa Day to our virtual symposium visitors and audience. It may be morning at your place or evening, but the overall general Hafa Day and welcome to Guam is certainly greetings to you. Thank you for attending and for the invitation. Thank you for coming on the invitation that we sent to you and to learn more about Guam. I just wanted to say that I had enjoyed myself at the Select USA Symposium. And for those that I have met there, thank you again for joining us. We are actually on the verge of an economic growth here in Guam, as I had mentioned when we met. Over the last 50 years, Guam's economy was primarily built on regional tourism and federal government spending. Over the last few years, we have been working very hard to diversify our economy. And with tourism, we have seen over 1.6 million visitors that arrived before COVID. After COVID and after our Typhoon Mawar recovery, we are starting to see more tourists come, and we're hoping to see more as Japan travel is also the prohibition to Japan travel has been lifted, and now we will start seeing more Japanese tourists and more tourists from the Asian community. Of course, we have all experienced the COVID-19 pandemic's impact to our economy, but during that time, as we worked hard to safeguard the lives of our people, we are also working very, very aggressively to create a stable economy. We managed to retire our deficit of $83 million during the pandemic. And even when our tourism was no longer as robust as it was before the pandemic. And so with financial discipline, very good government protocol and financial policies, we're able to retire our $83 million deficit. And now for the first time in many, many years, the government of Guam is seeing surpluses coming in. And a lot of that is coming through federal spending. A lot of that, again, is the return of our tourism. But we would like to diversify our economy, and that's why we are so committed to working with investors throughout Asia and even throughout the US and throughout the world to come to visit Guam and come to invest in our island. Just as a little history, I wanted to provide you some information about our major commercial investments. We have just recently, over the last 2 years, finished a construction of a Tsubaki Tower Hotel, a 5-star 26-story, 340-room luxury hotel, and at the cost of construction of about $167 million. We are also in the process of working to establish a 31,000 square foot telecommunications data center and submarine cable landing station. We are reinvesting in a $46 million reinvestment in a hotel property to open, and actually is open, the new Crown Plaza Resort. We are also investing in a $114 million project of the international flagship of Don Donkey department store complex. It's a very well-known department store complex in the Asian Pacific region, specifically in Japan and in other countries. And of course, we are going to have its first establishment here in Guam. These are just a major sample of investments that we have already had experience with Guam. I also want to just give a little bit of a information about Guam. And as you know, and as I said at the Select USA, we are actually America in Asia. We are only 3 to 5 hours away by air to major Asian metropolitan city centers in Japan, Korea, the Philippines, Taiwan, and just to name a few. We are also a US territory that follow local and US laws, which is very important, I think, for investors to know, because as you know, when there is a stable government with laws that protect businesses and laws that enhance businesses, investors are more inclined to invest because they feel they have protection and that they would be treated fairly and with equity. We are in similar time zones in Asia, so conducting business might not be as inconvenient. Guam is also, like I said, considered the gateway to the US. Guam hosts some of the world's largest communication providers, and we offer high-speed 5G broadband services as well as several advanced data centers. We also have just been granted a federal grant from the US government under the Department of Commerce and Trade with the telecommunications BEAD program. It's called BEAD program. And this program is targeted to achieve broadband throughout the island. It's also targeted to achieve the mission and the agenda of President Biden of connectivity to everyone. And we are excited about this 156 million grant because we are going to push it out to make sure that we have hardened the infrastructure of telecommunications, and so that there are infrastructure that would be so very much accessible, not just to commercial business investment, but also to the residents of Guam. We currently have 12 subsea fiber cable systems with 3 more systems in development, making the island, of course, an ideal location for digital interconnectivity between US and Asia. And again, the BEAD grant would only enhance and expand this. We have major international airlines servicing the region. We have the largest deep water port in the region, capable of serving the largest of ships. We continuously improve and modernize our ports, the airport and the seaport, because we are of the strong belief through experience and history that these ports are necessary and essential for commerce and trade, necessary and essential for our economy, necessary and essential for investors as an access to investing in Guam, so that there is the transport of people, human resources, goods and services, supplies, and all that may be necessary to help and assist your investment and your businesses here. Our administration is taking a bold and broad approach to repositioning the island for a robust economic future. The Guam Economic Development Authority, which is hosting this virtual summit, launched in 2021 an aggressive and extensive plan to look at opportunities to bolster our existing industries while simultaneously promoting the establishment of new and emerging industry. Guam is making investments into diversifying our economy portfolio by leveraging our strategic location and relationships, not just to the United States, but to the Asia Pacific region. So we are really a prime location. Geographically, I think infrastructure-wise, government stability-wise, economic strength, for you to please come and invest in our island, come and invest in our people. You would love our culture. We have major tourist attractions and hotel development that may be opportunities for you to invest in. We are also have many initiatives in innovative agriculture, aquaculture, and fisheries investment. And I just want to talk a little bit about aquaculture, because I know that the ocean is one of our livelihoods here in the Pacific and also in the Asian Pacific region. And we continue to make sure that our marine environment is clean, our environment is clean, because this is our livelihood. Not only is the ocean livelihood for food sustainability, but it is also livelihood for open waters, commerce, and trade. And so aquaculture is one of our biggest campaign now, because we feel that we can work with investors in the Asian Pacific region to also enhance your aquaculture businesses in your areas. For example, we have a research at the University of Guam that researches aquaculture industry, and we are able to grow tilapia, shrimp, prawns, and other kinds of sea fish. And we are also working to work with international investors to provide exports in the fry of our aquaculture products. This is very key because want you to know that our infrastructure here, our water system, is very clean and free of bacteria. It is biologically clean, and that is, I think, a plus in the whole aquaculture industry to be able to provide a pathogen-free product for not just Asian Pacific region, but also throughout the world. So investors in aquaculture, we have such great opportunities to work with you together to promote the aquaculture industry here in our island. We're also looking at pharmaceutical production. And, one of the key, I think, attraction in this is that if you invest in opening up a manufacturing production center here for pharmaceuticals, you can have the option and the ability to declare it as made in the United States. And with that kind of stamp of approval, it just, I think, encourages people and lets people know that it is coming from a industrial production or a pharmaceutical production that follows US standards, which then of course equates into the quality and the branding of the product. We have high-tech manufacturing and services that we are even close to reality, and that such as the additive manufacturing and drone production. So with our additive manufacturing, we're working very closely with some investors to open up a additive manufacturing industry here. And we would encourage you and invite you to be also part of that, I think, diversified industry that I really believe is going to take off in Guam. And why? Because with our military buildup here and the need for a quick ship repairing capacity, submarine repairing capacity, military parts and supplies that need to be gotten right quickly, this is the role that additive manufacturing can play to provide that kind of demand and that kind of quick supply. Data centers I had mentioned and co-location of services, we would love to have you. Healthcare services, I am in a very active campaign into building a new hospital. Of course, we would like to be able to be partners in maybe purchasing some of your supplies from throughout. But certainly we would be more than happy to see how maybe we can interact and partner in some of the delivery of healthcare services for our island. We also have opportunities in recycling and circular economy activities. We are very in tune with working with the 17 United Nations sustainable goals that has been announced and pushed out by the United Nations. Most of you who are part of the United Nations are probably very informed about this. This is our way of helping and fighting climate change, and also ways of protecting our environment and ways of making sure that we do have a strong food sustainability program, economic sustainability program, and so forth. And so with circular economy, of course, we want to move it through the process of waste to wealth. And so there are opportunities here that I can work with in terms of how do you help us and come and invest in turning, say, hazardous waste and other kinds of waste, biological waste, into something that can be productive and a product that can be used again and recycled back into the economy. My administration is placing an increased emphasis again on economic expansion. And like I said, we are just ripe and mature to receive investors again to help us move this economic expansion forward. Our government is undertaking large scales of capital improvement projects at our ports, our power plants, and our roads so that we can have that capacity of infrastructure for future economic growth. Geda has been supporting efforts to increase our knowledge and capacity in key industries, such as, like I said, agriculture, aquaculture, manufacturing, and tourism. Today's virtual symposium will provide you with even an information about Guam, our economy, and future plans in more details by our upcoming speakers. I would like to say, on behalf of the entire government of Guam, I would like to thank you again for your continued interest in Guam. Guam is open for business, and we invite you, and we would love to be part of your success and be part of our success also. I invite you to select Guam for your next business endeavor that we are planning, and probably you will get more details. And this would be an opportunity for you to come to Guam and see our beautiful island, our welcoming and friendly people. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of the summit.
Thank you, Governor Liu, for your passion towards improving our island's economy through diversification and foreign direct investment. We have attendees in areas of manufacturing, energy, aeronautics, and other industries that I know were encouraged by your words today. Moving on, I'd like to take the opportunity to welcome David John, our chairman of the board here at the Guam Economic Development Authority. David John has been a prominent leader in retirement plan management and administration and currently holds the position of chairman and managing director of ASC Trust LLC. Moreover, ASC Trust serves a vast clientele of 36,000 participants and manages over $2 billion in trust assets. He was educated at the University of St. Thomas in St. Paul, Minnesota, and is a licensed investment advisor. He also serves in many civic and community organizations, including being the chairman of the Guam Economic Development Authority, board member of the University of Guam Endowment Foundation, board member of GTA Teleguam, member of the Fidelity Advisor Council, chairman of the Archdiocese of Guam Finance Council, and board member of the University of St. Thomas. He's also a recipient of the Guam Small Business Administration 2016 Small Business Person of the Year. Welcome, sir.
Hafa day, everybody. It's a pleasure to welcome everyone to the virtual summit today. I'm confident what you're going to learn over the next couple of hours will convince you to continue to have a conversation with Guam for your future investment dollars. The Guam Economic Development Authority has two charters. We consult the government and its agencies in financial management, and we aid in the development of the private sector industries through the use of economic incentives and assisting investors in establishing their businesses on Guam. Currently, Guam is predominantly a two-legged economy, consisting of government spending, both federal and local, and tourism. Prior to COVID, both industries were doing extremely well, with the island welcoming over 1.5 million tourists annually from our three major source markets to include Japan, Korea, and Taiwan. Additionally, federal spending was at record highs. However, COVID was particularly hard on tourism in Asia. While the rest of the world bounced back in 2022, the return of the Asian tourist market was delayed until mid-2022, with Japan only fully opening up in recent months. COVID made it very clear to the governor and her team that Guam needed to diversify beyond tourism. To do this, the governor established a task force to look at opportunities where Guam could offer unique opportunities for investment. The task force looked at a long list of ideas, and after a multi-month process, decided to focus on additive manufacturing, ship repair, aerospace maintenance and support, cable landing and data centers, light manufacturing to include pharmaceutical work, as well as aquaculture and agriculture. Additionally, the task force recognized the opportunities of tourism as a lifestyle benefit for you and your investors as you're looking at Guam. We like to think of it this way. Come to Guam for the economic opportunities and stay for Guam's lifestyle. Where living on Guam is akin to living on a large resort with world-class golf courses, restaurants, and entertainment. We hope that you'll come later this year in person so we can show you what we mean. When we first introduced our diversification plan, there were a lot of doubters. Guam always seems to have a lot of doubters. We certainly did when we introduced the idea of tourism back in the 1960s. Many of the expert consultants hired to look at tourism as an opportunity to grow the economy stated very clearly that tourism would never work on Guam. Millions of tourists later, and a multi-billion-dollar industry proves them wrong. And the industry continues to develop with major developments, with 2 high-end hotels being developed prior to COVID with the Sabaki and Dusit, both 5-star hotels, several renovations of existing hotels to upgrade their facilities to include the rebranding of the Crown Plaza, Rizaner, and the Royal Laguna properties. Additionally, the industry has seen the reopening of our major Las Vegas style entertainment venue with a $10 million renovation of the Sandcastle Entertainment Center. And prior to the end of this year, as the governor pointed out, we'll be welcoming Don Donkey global store to our retail offerings, which were already a high-end offering for our tourists to come to Guam. Outside the tourism, the island has seen significant success in communication cable landing stations, where Guam's geographical location coupled with Guam's US law has made the Guam the pivotal location for major syndicates made up of Meta, Google, and Amazon. We currently have 12 cables landing on Guam with 3 more coming, connecting Southeast Asia and North Asia and the continental United States, making us one of the most connected places per capita in the world. To put it in perspective, we have 12 cables right now. We'll have 15 cables within 60 months with a population of 160,000 people. Taiwan, with a population of 25 million people, has 17 cables. And while cables passing through Guam helps reduce latency, creating fast and stable communication for our people and businesses, the task force continues to look at ways to best leverage this opportunities to include first-level opportunities of data centers, where we are already seeing success. Currently, Guam has 4 data centers, with 1 actively being built and several others in different levels of design and planning stages, representing tens of millions of dollars in new communication infrastructure investments. Outside of the telecommunications and tourism, COVID reminded the U.S. government how important a U.S. port in Asia is, when several U.S. military ships, to include the Roosevelt, were turned away from regional ports during the outbreak. The pivot by the military has resulted in more of our demand for local ship capabilities, as well as new investment from Pearl Harbor Naval Shipyard. The demand for more ship repair work led to the discussion on how additive manufacturing can assist both military and private sector industries with reducing supply chain turnaround. In May of this year, I presented on the Guam opportunities, at an additive manufacturing conference in Chicago, where we found significant interest from several major companies to include Siemens, Boeing, Big Metal Additive, EOS, and Northrop Grumman, and cultivating Guam as a hub for maintenance and fulfillment in areas of ship repair, shipbuilding, submarine building and repair, and aircraft maintenance through additive manufacturing. To support our efforts, the government has undertaken significant infrastructure projects, including $630 million to upgrade the island's energy infrastructure and over $250 million to upgrade our air and seaports, as well as $67 million for our roadways. Additionally, the government of Guam has invested millions to increase workforce capabilities in healthcare, agriculture, aquaculture, transshipment, additive manufacturing, ship repair, medical billing and coding, and engineering at the University of Guam and the Guam Community College. I hope you can see from my brief comments that I'm personally very bullish on Guam, and by being here today, you also see these opportunities. At this point, I'm going to turn it back to Director Mendiola so she can move forward with the presentation today. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We do have time for a few questions from the audience. I'll go ahead and I'll go ahead and start with one question, and then we can see if there are any from the audience and see how many questions we can handle based on how much time permits. So, Mr. Chair, you spoke on tourism being decades old, so it is relatively mature. But do you believe there's still great opportunity? And can you elaborate?
I do, Mel. I think tourism is, it's decades old, has always been changing. And if you look back 10 years ago, if you looked at the average tourist or the makeup of the average tourist, it was basically a young Japanese tourist coming to the island. And now you look at it and we're about 80-20 in our split from where the source markets of 40% Japan, 40% Korea, and 20% other, made up of Taiwan and Philippines and a few other sources. But we have a diversification of where our source markets are, which creates one opportunity from what they want coming from different countries, as well as some change in behavior of that tourist. When we first started, it was busloads of tourists that would go from one destination to the next to the next. So everything was driven by the agent. And now we have individual travel, the internet capabilities there. And so really companies and individuals can come in and get results immediately because it's much more open and easier to bring new offerings to the table. So we've got a change in the demographic, and with that we've seen upgrades in our offerings as far as the hotels, the restaurants, as far as opportunities there across the board. But we have a changing dynamic, a changing the source markets, and there's a demand for more hotel rooms. We saw that before COVID. We were able to get a couple hotels online. We have a couple others that are in discussion, but we need more rooms, we need upgrades, and we need more entertainment options for these tourists.
Great. Thank you, sir. The governor and you as well reinforced the undersea cable system passing through Guam. And you made the comparison that we have 12 cables with plans for more, and in comparison to Taiwan and the cables that they have as well. Can you talk about why? Can you elaborate more about why Guam is important in this arena?
So it's a couple things what's going on with why we're important and then what the opportunity is. Guam has had cables through AT&T and Australian cable for years to connect up mostly military activities and things that are going on regionally. But when the earthquakes happened up in Japan 10 years ago, several of the cables were interrupted. And so the industry looked at what other area, where they could also bring cables in, and Guam sat right in the middle of it. So it started as a pivot to diversify from the northern route. And then as the tensions kind of escalated in the South China Sea, became a pivot also from that. And then there's just the increase every year of more and more need for data. There's just, there's cables being landed everywhere. But Guam is the route for the southern route for the communication between Southeast Asia, North Asia, and the continental United States. Opportunity for us after landing these cables is, of course, the data stations as the first piece there. But I kind of think of a cable as a railroad's going across the United States back in the late 1700s, early 1800s. Every state wanted a railroad, and that's the cable. The next stage is you want that railroad to stop in your town. That's the data center. What we do with it, the opportunity there is, are we going to be a small town or are we going to be a big commerce center? And so the diversification committee is trying to figure out ways to take just going from just data center to the next level where people are near their data, and we can do different types of technology developments and investments to move along with the data centers. So I think it's really exciting.
Thank you very much. The government of Guam has taken some strides to improve our transportation and as well as our infrastructure to support industries like an increased presence of data centers. Would you mind, sir, discussing any improvements you've seen at our ports or with the utilities?
Well, the ports themselves, I mean, the ability for the transshipment down at the port, the capabilities have increased significantly over the last few years. You can just see it coming out of this storm. I mean, all ports are disrupted to start with, but they're able to transition quickly out of that and hit the ground running. The airport with the extension of the runways over the last 10 years now have the abilities for airplanes to go from here straight to the U.S. For both passengers and cargo. And then the upgrade in the terminal is fantastic. I think it's a world-class terminal opportunity. The next stage, which is just key to everything, is the power. And while we're about a year and a half, 2 years away from it, once our new infrastructure is in play, I think it's going to offer just another level of stability for the industries that we're trying to develop. So I think we're doing all the right things behind it, and with the infrastructure spend.
Great. We do have a question from the audience. Could you expand on opportunities in developing housing, such as condos?
Housing is in great demand, right? Not just right now, but once the workers land to run the new military base and the things that we're developing coming online, the demand for housing is going to go to the next level. So the next few years are critical. I know the governor, I can speak for the governor, that she's very supportive of the needs there. I think the tax people coming on later can maybe get into the tax incentives behind what the housing what we have as far as housing projects, but not just affordable housing. We need housing across the board, full spectrum. So there's a huge need for it, and the community is very supportive of it. Geda is very supportive of it in our initiatives, and it's going to be key to making sure that the opening of the base is a success story for our island.
Thank you, sir. While we're on the
Well,
subject of
you know,
housing, we're all aware you need workers you need workers on the ground to get any industry going, especially and to construct homes. Let's can we segue and talk a little bit about your observations of Guam's workforce?
Yeah, again, I've been around for 30 years now. I think I've seen a few things as far as development goes, and we do need some support from H2 type programs to get through the hump with what we're doing with just the size and scope of the development that we're seeing over the next few years. And then as we develop some of the new industries, we're going to need support from skill sets. We saw this with tourism. When I first came here back in the 1980s, if you were to go into a hotel, almost all the management, let's just say it, all the management were Japanese. Now you go into a local hotel, and it's across the board, and it's almost all, when I say local, people who are from here, consider Guam their home. We were able to develop that over a period of time. So we saw the development from all off island to pretty much all local. We've seen the same thing in the telecommunication industry. When GTA was sold from the government to Shamrock Group 20 some years ago, the majority of the C-suite that was put in place were all from off island because the skill sets needed. That company grew as far as the number of employees, but today, if you look at it, it's almost all local, and you start to see that across the board with other things. So as we're developing things, skill sets will need to be brought in, but Guam's workforce is adaptable and just looking for new things to do. And so our university and Guam Community College are very supportive in finding out what the needs are of the industries, and then backfilling that with the right coursework and apprenticeship programs, which is another big piece of it. We have a very solid apprenticeship program to help pay the labor as they're coming along with you, training on site in the real world with you. It's kind of an exciting opportunity for investors also.
Thank you, sir. I'm glad that you brought up apprenticeships at the Guam Community College, as well as the University of Guam, who launched a School of Engineering and is now graduating engineering grads. We do, in fact, one thing that we're not getting to today is something called the GRAP program, which stands for Guam Registered Apprenticeship Program, wherein an investor can work with the Department of Labor and the Guam Community College to claim tax credits for any training and hours spent on the job training in apprenticeable positions. And so this is a widely used program in construction, ship repair, and telecommunications, and really complements workforce development and upskilling our local workforce to meet the needs of the industry. I think we have time for one more question. Sir, do you have any, let me see. The government has some plans to grow the healthcare services sector of the economy. The University of Guam recently received a multi-million-dollar grant to improve its School of Health so that it may graduate more nursing professionals. But can you discuss a little bit some of the developments in healthcare on our island?
I think it's a huge opportunity for the entire region. If you could think of Guam in any country or territory that you sit at right now around the world, Guam is the big city around the small towns, and so we're the place where not only do we need to provide the healthcare for our people, but for the islands that are around us, we're the regional hospital, and so the development of this industry just from a healthcare standpoint in increasing the capabilities for our people is huge. But from an economic opportunity, there's a lot of opportunity to provide not just services for the people of Guam, but for all the regional the countries in the region to go along with that. And so this is something that's we're a little bit behind the curve on, and the governor is really pushing everybody to get to the next level on this. But healthcare opportunities from an investment as well as care standpoint, I think is only upside from here to go.
There's also a significant appetite, I believe, sir, that you'll agree with me for public-private partnerships in this space. There's significant support from the government and from the federal government to increase our capacity in healthcare. And so this seems like a natural fit for any healthcare type of investor that might make their way to the island.
Yep. Agreed.
Thank you, Chairman David John, for your time and insight. Do you have any parting words for our attendees today?
Just, I would like to thank everybody for being here this morning or this afternoon or the evening, or wherever you may be, and that hopefully you can find time to send representatives to our conference in person later in the year. I think if you come here, you touch the dirt, you smell the air, you see what's around here, you'll be further down the process and be excited about investment opportunities for Guam. So I'd like to thank everybody for your time.
Thank you very much, sir. And the governor has stayed with us throughout this discussion, and she'd like to chime in as well. So we'd like to give the governor the opportunity to chime in. Governor, are you there?
Thank you for that very comprehensive outlook on our investments here in Guam. I just wanted to maybe add a little bit more on the telecommunications. I just want to make sure that people are aware that as was mentioned earlier about the importance of redundancy. And that's why we are geographically situated to be able to provide Asian Pacific regions that redundancy, because if it's not there as a backup, and once your telecommunications is paralyzed, which we have experienced, it is very important to be able to have backup and to be able to have a plan for redundancy. And so we're very key located for that. The other thing about healthcare services is that there is opportunities to invest in our healthcare services here. We are looking at building a medical care complex to include a hospital that is going to provide all the necessary and specialty areas that are needed in our island and throughout. So this is important for investors, because they want to make sure when they invest and they relocate their families or some of their employees, that there is a quality of continued and consistent medical care services. But we also want to make sure that you are aware that you can invest in this healthcare services in radiology, technology, diagnostic technology, all sorts of specialty cares that is a prime opportunities for advanced medical equipment and so forth to invest on our island. And so I just want to make those key points and to encourage people to look at that. Healthcare is an industry that never really loses any kind of personnel or never even loses any kind of demand, because in every aspect of life, healthcare has to be there. So it's a very stable source of industry and investment. I also want to thank everybody for their comments, and I want to thank everybody for their attention. And again, we'll proceed and look forward to your virtual intermission. And then, of course, talking about tax and incentives.
Thank you again, Governor. And thank you, Mr. Chair, for your time today. To delve a little deeper into industries, it looks like Guam has a competitive advantage in a number of them. Next, we have two speakers who will get down to brass tacks and they'll talk about establishing a business in Guam, taxation, and then tax incentives that would encourage your investment and speed the time for your return on investment. But first, let's take a quick 5-minute break for you to stretch your legs before we kick off the latter part of today's program. Thank you.
Half a day. I'm Lou Leon Guerrero, Governor of Guam. As we emerge from the COVID-19 pandemic, Guam is poised to welcome the global investment community to our shores. As a member of the American family, Guam can offer investors a stable and secure environment for investment. We are the closest American soil to the Asian continent. Our proximity to financial and population centers in the Asian Pacific region makes travel to and from Guam quick and convenient. Our people are as warm and welcoming as our weather, and I invite you to learn firsthand why we are where America's day begins. I look forward to welcoming you to our island. Sidzus Maasi, and thank you.
Half a day. I'm David John, Chairman of the Guam Economic Development Authority. This is an exciting time for Guam. Our island is on the cusp of unprecedented level of growth. More than $20 billion in federal investment is underway throughout the Micronesian region. Industries which support these projects is an immediate opportunity for investors. Additionally, for the last 4 decades, over $1 billion has been invested in the tourism infrastructure. However, with our continually diversifying visitor base from Japan, Korea, Taiwan, and the rest of Asia, more opportunities exist in this industry. In addition, this is a robust jumping-off point for areas of economic diversification, including aquaculture, technology, and healthcare. Guam has an investor-friendly environment designed to attract responsible, sustainable, long-term investments to our shores. Our team at Geda stands ready to work with you to provide the necessary information and incentives to bring your investment vision to life.
Half a day. Here at the Guam Economic Development Authority, our mission is to develop a sound and sustainable economy through innovative programs that preserve and promote local culture, economic opportunities, and quality of life. Our team is ready to support you with plans and programs identified to assist you with your investment concepts. Geda administers investor incentive programs, including our qualifying certificate program, which provides tax abatements and other incentives to qualified investors. The territory of Guam utilizes a mirror tax code to the United States Internal Revenue Code, and our qualifying certificate program allows for rebates that apply to our mirror U.S. tax code. Learn more about this program, which is one of a kind across the United States and territories. In addition, Guam also offers tax incentive programs related to workforce development in various industries, including construction and telecommunications. Guam is a tropical paradise featuring gleaming sand beaches, a plethora of outdoor recreation activities, historical cultural landmarks, world-class shopping, and cosmopolitan dining. Steeped in history that goes back thousands of years, Guam has a rich cultural heritage. While we remain a close-knit island community, we are a global representation of Asia and America when it comes to business, with industry investments from Japan, Korea, Taiwan, and other countries.
Guam is a wonderful place to start a business and raise a family. With a comprehensive American education system, modern healthcare services, the stability of the U.S. legal system, and a dynamic blend of Pacific, Asian, and American cultures, Guam has a great deal to offer our investors. It is the perfect time to invest in Guam. We invite you to invest in Guam. Si Zeus Maasi, and thank you.
Welcome back, everyone. I'd like to welcome two individuals who will serve as your contacts on the ground here in Guam. We have Edward Camacho, who is our Business and Economic Development Manager here at the Guam Economic Development Authority, and Jerome Uggan, who is the Taxpayer Services Administrator at the Department of Revenue and Taxation. Welcome, gentlemen. Jerome, I'd like to start with my first question is for you. Would you please share with the audience the process for setting up a business on Guam?
So for a foreign company or corporation wishing to do business on Guam, the first step they would have to take is to visit the Department of Revenue and Taxation, the General Licensing and Registration Branch, where they would be required to submit an application for a certificate of authority and also get a business license before they're able to do business on Guam.
Mr. Camacho, are there certain ways that Geda assists people on the ground before and during the business licensing and setup process?
Yes, thank you, Mel. Geda has a concierge operation here where before businesses will even think about setting up an operation on Guam, they normally reach out to Geda to see what type of support we can provide to them. And we would direct them to whatever type of services they might need, legal, accounting firms, whoever may help them, because they may not know how to set up a business in the U.S. So that's where we come in and we try to guide them through the process of application for a new business.
Any helpful tips, Jerome, that you have for somebody looking to establish a business in Guam, or any common practices that foreign companies in particular utilize?
Yes, actually, especially if they are not on Guam or if they've never been, many will hire a professional, maybe an attorney or a certified public accountant, and so that they can kind of do the legwork, get all the applications in and become a registered agent for that foreign company. And they can act, like I said, they'll do all of the legwork that's required as long as they're a registered agent.
Thank you. Ed, did you want to add anything to Jerome's comment?
Yes, that generally is the process where we have numerous investors from overseas coming into Guam, foreign investors, reaching out to Geda for assistance and support and how they would go about setting up a business license on Guam. So the expertise are with Jerome's division over at the Department of Revenue and Taxation, but we can assist in setting up meetings, going over forms with them, and whatever's necessary for them to get the ball started in the application process of a business license.
Great, and referring them to a good qualified registered agent, or potentially setting up interviews with some good qualified registered agents.
Absolutely.
All right. The Guam is a mirror tax code of the United States Internal Revenue Code. So a business should certainly expect to pay taxes. Can you elaborate on the taxes they might be required to pay, Jerome?
Sure. So like you said, the Guam Income Tax Code is a mirror of the Internal Revenue Code. So aside from that level of income tax, there is no other income tax here on Guam. So aside from paying income tax on Guam sourced income, there's also employment taxes to consider. And the local tax is what we refer to as a business privilege tax. And other than that, there's real property tax, but it really depends on the type of business that you're thinking about conducting on Guam. There might be other local taxes such as a use tax or tobacco
tax
and alcohol taxes to consider. Like I said, depending on the business that you're going to be conducting.
Thank you very much. Guam has a unique program that allows for abatements and rebates of the lion's share of taxes that Jerome just discussed. I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Camacho to talk about the qualifying certificate program.
Thank you, Mel. The Qualifying Certificate Program is a program that was created by the government of Guam well over 50 years ago to entice investments into Guam for certain industries and for certain businesses. It allows for the majority of the tax incentives would be in the income side, but it also allows for a business privilege tax abatement for specific business types only, as well as property tax and dividend taxes. The program originally helped build Guam's economy, our tourist economy, with the availability of giving up to 75% income tax rebate for those businesses that came into Guam and developed our tourism and attractions industry. Today, fast forward to today, we have a developed economy on Guam now. So we're diversifying our economy. Therefore, we're looking at the Qualifying Certificate Program to see what other type of benefits we can offer that would help entice businesses to come to Guam. The BBT abatement we have is not for all businesses. It's specific to basically affordable housing, captive insurance, and one or two other industries. But the primary tax incentive that the qualifying certificate provides is up to 75% of income tax rebate up to 20 years, which is a long period to have this tax incentive program. Now, keep in mind that this is unlike any state out there in the nation, that we are one of the only territories or areas of the U.S. that can rebate income tax due to the island of Guam.
It certainly is a unique benefit of Guam among the states and territories that we are probably the only that are able to rebate up to 75% of income taxes paid. Mr. Camacho, is any industry or business eligible for a qualifying certificate?
Yes and no. The qualifying certificate was created when it was created. It was very focused on the type of benefit, tax benefit. However, the industry and the type of businesses was very broad. As back 50, 60 years ago, we didn't have an established industry. Now we have focus industries we're targeting right now that businesses within those industries may be qualified for, such as light manufacturing. We're trying to develop high-tech industries, additive manufacturing, basically in recycling, a circular economy, affordable housing as such. Those are industries we're trying to develop right now. They haven't not been developed in the past. So these are the programs we're looking at and trying to improve on the type of benefit we are able to provide for investments in these industries.
So we're more bullish on certain industries than in other industries.
Yes, and just because you're in an industry we're trying to develop, that doesn't mean you'd be eligible to receive a qualifying certificate. There are conditions upon receiving a QC that we can go over that later on, or it's just not something that's automatically given out. That is why it's called a qualifying certificate. There's conditions of the government, the QC, and compliance, and the creation of employment that must be met first.
One of the most generous qualifying certificates is the circular economy, the recycling qualifying certificate, and that allows for almost a uniform abatement or rebate of all taxes that a potential business in this industry would owe or would be liable for. Is that correct? And can you?
Correct. It allows for 100% rebate of income tax and 100% of the BBT abatement up to 10 years for those businesses investing in recycling or circular economy.
Removing waste or repurposing waste from the waste stream.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. The goal is to reduce the amount of waste that goes into the waste stream, either through recycling or through repurposing the waste going back into the economy.
From our research, we've had more inquiries concerning the qualifying certificate program in the last 5 years than we've had in the last 2 decades. Why do you think that is?
One of the reasons is the strength of Guam's economy. We've seen more foreign investors looking at Guam now to make investments outside of the tourism industry. That's probably related to some of the issues going geopolitically in the region. But more importantly, I think it's showing the strength of the government and the strength of the Guam Economic Development Authority in its outreach program to try to entice new investments into Guam.
Great. Jerome, are there more foreign-owned? Are you observing more foreign-owned businesses looking to set up shop?
Yes, there actually have been more recently.
And any particular industries you've been seeing?
There's been a lot of construction-related businesses, as well as the tourism-related businesses.
Great. Mr. Camacho, I wanted to change it up for a moment and talk about workforce. And if you can, we discussed it a little bit with Chairman David John, but I wanted to talk to see if you can elaborate more about Guam's workforce.
Yeah, Guam is the largest island in the Micronesia, and as such, we have a pretty large workforce. Our workforce is pretty trained in various different areas of Guam. Basically, we have right now we have a lot of the fields of training are in agriculture, aquaculture, manufacturing, wholesale, retail, finance, and tourism industry fields. These are all established fields where you have adequate training. However, we also have programs associated with the Department of Labor, which is the Guam Registered Apprentice Program, the Guam Community College, University of Guam, and the Guam Contractors Associations. All have programs, boot camps, and so forth that help any foreign investor looking at developing, investing in Guam that requires specified or specific type of training. We can work with those companies to help develop them. But we do have an established, for Guam's economy now, a very established and large workforce.
I'd like to open up for a few minutes for audience questions. But while we're waiting for the audience to pose any questions, we did get one question earlier for Chairman John on the market for housing and condominium development in particular. Did you want to speak to that at all, Ed?
Sure, we do have interest in affordable housing, but there's definitely interest in the middle class housing. The Guam Economic Development Authority is working with the Guam Housing and the Guam Housing and Urban Renewal Authority to put together a housing expo next year that will tell us what the housing industry needs right now, from affordable housing to middle class housing to high end housing. So there's a lot of interest within the government of Guam to develop this the expo that we're going to hold next year, because we do need to understand what the true need of the housing and the pricing market that people require in today's market.
Thank you very much, sir. This is a very interesting question, and I wanted to make that distinction. Is the qualifying certificate program only for foreign investors, or can a U.S. investor apply for a QC?
Initially, it started out to attract foreign investment, but subsequently it's been opened up to any business, U.S. business or foreign investment looking at Guam. There are conditions, of course, but the conditions across the board. You have to have a Guam business license first and foremost, but it is open up to any type of business, foreign or U.S.
And Jerome, turning it over to you, is establishing a business, if let's say you're headquartered in a different state or territory, but are looking to do business in Guam, do you still need to do the certificate of authority and obtain a local business license to do business here?
Yes, you do. So even if you're a US based company, the fact that you are not incorporated or started on Guam makes you considers you a foreign corporation or a foreign company. So whether you're foreign to the United States or you're just not in Guam, you're in the continental United States, you're considered a foreign company, a foreign corporation of a corporation.
But the repatriation of payroll taxes for such as the Social Security system, those are all reverted to the IRS. Those aren't federal, those aren't a mirror tax code. We pay into the US Social Security system. Is that correct?
That's correct for Social Security. But again, I mean, I'm not sure at what level, the audience is asking about or wondering about, but that's part of the reason why we suggested earlier, trying to find somebody on the ground here that can find out a lot of those specifics for you. Because it really depends on your structure, where you're from, what type of business, if you're planning to have employees or not.
Great, beautiful. This is another question from our audience. Are there tech startup accelerator programs in Guam? I was thinking about the SSBCI program, if that's something you wanted to discuss in addition to the QC program. And are there equipment or maker spaces available?
Yes, there are. There are programs to help new businesses on Guam. We have various different lending programs. One would be called the SSBCI program, and we also are getting ready, if not already, have launched a venture capital program that will assist businesses that need capital to reach out to the Guam Economic Development Authority and look at it as an interested investor into that business. We also have companies that makerspace program companies out there that will help businesses develop whatever products they would need to help support their businesses. We see a lot more of those businesses coming about now. And a lot of them are going to be part of a program that Geda has, which is a Guam product sale program, where products that are made in Guam can have a seal that says they're made in Guam. So it differentiates that product from a product that's brought in trying to say they're made in the US.
Great. Relative to other states and territories, is it easy to set up a limited liability company on Guam? Another question from the audience. Jerome, do you want to speak to that?
Yes, well, a limited liability company, it would follow the same process as if you were in the United States. So yes, it is relatively easy.
Okay, great. If there are no other audience questions, I wanted to turn it over for a moment to Mr. Camacho to just talk about the Guam Economic Development Authority and as well as to offer any closing remarks to the audience.
Sure, thank you. The Guam Economic Authority, the Business Development Division of the Guam Economic Development Authority, is tasked with the responsibility of trying to help Guam foster its existing industries as well as bring in new industries in Guam. We have a well-rounded team that can talk about the tax incentive programs, lending programs that we have to offer for new businesses, as well as existing businesses. We also are the division of the agency that travels abroad for all these different trade missions. Select USA was one of them. We do trade missions throughout all of Asia that we can go out there, market the advantages of Guam being a U.S. soil has to offer in this Asian region. But we're now seeing more interest from outside of Asia and Europe and South America in Guam too, because of the Select USA summit we attended last year and this year. So I invite all those listening today to reach out to the Guam Economic Development Authority, primarily the business division. My name is Ed Camacho. For more information, how we may help you determine the type of investment you may be looking at in Guam.
Great. Jerome, do you have any closing remarks? And if you're an investor looking to make your way to Guam, who should they contact at the Department of Revenue and Taxation?
For the Department of Revenue and Taxation, I'm Jerome Uggan. My email is jerome.uggan@revtax, that's revtax.guam.gov. And again, my title is Taxpayer Services Administrator.
Great. We'll go ahead and post all of the contact information for our speakers today, so that our audience members can address any queries to them. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your time today. And thank you very much, gentlemen, for your time today. And I believe that's unless there are any other audience questions, I believe we are ready to close out, right? Okay, great. As we close out Select Guam, I did want to invite you for the next steps in your due diligence process. All attendees today will be extended an invitation for a live meeting called Select Guam Live. We would like to welcome your company to Guam in person to meet with our government leaders, network with business professionals, including immigration attorneys, finance experts, and real estate professionals, and other members of the community who may help to facilitate your investment in Guam. We would also like to show you Guam's active projects and help plant the seeds of your new business on Guam. We have this scheduled for the week of November 13th, and spaces are limited. Regardless of whether you choose to visit Guam with the November delegation or on your own, please know that the Guam Economic Development Authority is here to facilitate your due diligence on the island. We will go ahead and stay online for another few minutes if there's any questions that any audience members might like to have privately with any of the attendees today, with our chairman, Mr. David John, with Mr. Ed Camacho, or Mr. Jerome Uggan. But with that, our time together has come to a close. As we say in Guam, Undangkalu Nasizus Maasi, our heartfelt thanks to you for taking the time to visit with us. Please don't make it your last.
Half a day. I'm Lou Leon Guerrero, Governor of Guam. As we emerge from the COVID-19 pandemic, Guam is poised to welcome the global investment community to our shores. As a member of the American family, Guam can offer investors a stable and secure environment for investment. We are the closest American soil to the Asian continent. Our proximity to financial and population centers in the Asian Pacific region makes travel to and from Guam quick and convenient. Our people are as warm and welcoming as our weather, and I invite you to learn firsthand why we are where America's day begins. I look forward to welcoming you to our island. Sidus Maasi, and thank you.
Hafaday. I'm David John, Chairman of the Guam Economic Development Authority. This is an exciting time for Guam. Our island is on the cusp of unprecedented level of growth. More than $20 billion in federal investment is underway throughout the Micronesian region. Industries which support these projects is an immediate opportunity for investors. Additionally, for the last 4 decades, over $1 billion has been invested in the tourism infrastructure. However, with our continually diversifying visitor base from Japan, Korea, Taiwan, and the rest of Asia, more opportunities exist in this industry. In addition, this is a robust jumping-off point for areas of economic diversification, including aquaculture, technology, and healthcare. Guam has an investor-friendly environment designed to attract responsible, sustainable, long-term investments to our shores. Our team at Geda stands ready to work with you to provide the necessary information and incentives to bring your investment vision to life.
Hafaday, here at the Guam Economic Development Authority, our mission is to develop a sound and sustainable economy through innovative programs that preserve and promote local culture, economic opportunities, and quality of life. Our team is ready to support you with plans and programs identified to assist you with your investment concepts. Geda administers investor incentive programs, including our qualifying certificate program, which provides tax abatements and other incentives to qualified investors. The territory of Guam utilizes a mirror tax code to the United States Internal Revenue Code, and our qualifying certificate program allows for rebates that apply to our mirror U.S. tax code. Learn more about this program, which is one of a kind across the United States and territories. In addition, Guam also offers tax incentive programs related to workforce development in various industries, including construction and telecommunications. Guam is a tropical paradise featuring gleaming sand beaches, a plethora of outdoor recreation activities, historical cultural landmarks, world-class shopping, and cosmopolitan dining. Steeped in history that goes back thousands of years, Guam has a rich cultural heritage. While we remain a close-knit island community, we are a global representation of Asia and America when it comes to business, with industry investments from Japan, Korea, Taiwan, and other countries.
Guam is a wonderful place to start a business and raise a family. With a comprehensive American education system, modern healthcare services, the stability of the U.S. legal system, and a dynamic blend of Pacific, Asian, and American cultures, Guam has a great deal to offer our investors. It is the perfect time to invest in Guam. We invite you to invest in Guam. Sidus Maasi, and thank you.